The night marches on here as we head straight into this late night match, late night Fogeys versus Mad Nutties, and they are ready to go.
Absolutely. And here we are going to be on the Tomb of the Spider Queen, and we see a Li Ming ban, and we're presumably going to see Mad Nutty's ban out KT, which we do. So now we're looking at Late Night Fogies taking their first pick, and it wasn't very long at all, and they come out with the Zool pick.
They knew exactly what they wanted there as they target banned out Li Ming so they wouldn't have to deal with her or the decision whether or not they wanted to take the superior mage who somehow eluded that last draft we went through, but much more useful here on Tomb of the Spider Queen, I think, than Infernal Shrines, where the wave clear works a little different and the collection is a little bit different than on those seeds and those shamblers. But here on Tomb of the Spider Queen, Zol, one of the excellent characters at clearing those lanes, and one of the cool benefits of Zol, of having a Zol on your team, is as he clears those waves, he's able to create those skeletons that continue to push into the lane, but they leave the gems behind, so he's able to go up and safely collect those gems.
Absolutely. What will be interesting to see what these teams are going to do is what are the best strategies with this map to get some sort of vision and babysit those two turn-in points and just rotate between the two. It will be interesting to see if these teams will build towards some heroes that provide vision like that. Your Malfurion, your Tassadar, to name a few. And we see Mad Nutties coming out with that Sonya pick right off the bat into a Rhaegar.
Very early Sonya pick here, making it clear that they want to make sure they have her up on the front line and they have a lot of frontline presence. And Rhaegar, one of the best healers in the game, just very consistent, not showing a whole lot of what they want to do here early. Meanwhile, Late Night Fogies continuing to work on their wave clear. On this map, Tomb of the Spider Queen, it's so crucial that you have wave clear in those lanes. And Johanna, the best wave clear in the game, and we see a Lunara pick coming out from Late Night Fogies.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting to see that they took that Mad Nutties took Sonya with that first pick. I don't know if that would have been that's a really good first pick because you probably could have gotten her down possibly after the ban phase. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them picking out that Sonya first when there's players like Falstead still on the board. Um, uh, those taking some sort of maybe one of the highly contested tanks, and we see an Uther band coming out from Mad Nutties and moving over to Late Night Fogeys band.
Absolutely. We see the healer chokehold is on. Late Night Fogies getting their first three picks in Zol, Johanna, and Lunara, but they do not have a healer yet, whereas Mad Nutties already has the healer in Rhaegar. They don't really need another one. They don't certainly need another pure healer like Uther, so they're going to ban them out. But same kind of mentality for Late Night Fogies. They go ahead and ban out the ETC. They already have Johanna. They know which tank they don't want to go against, so they ban that out and really only leave Mad Nutties with one good pure tank in the game, which is Muradin.
And that's why I thought that Sony pick was a little bit questionable because you can get somebody Sony like in a Thrall or somebody like that if Sonya is taken off the board. However, now they only really get a choice between Muradin, who I'm assuming who they're going to go with, or maybe even a Diablo. Before, if they would have taken their tank earlier, their main tank earlier, they would have had a choice between Muradin or Joanna. And we see as Zagar coming out to be the response to that Zul pick is still a very good hero. Has that vision presence that she can just carpet creep down on the turning points, both of them, if she elects to do so. So this will be a really interesting part. I have noticed when I play, Zul can sometimes out lane a Zagara if left alone and if the Zul is aggressive, and we do see the Falstead pick up with that nice global presence coming on the side of Mad Nutties, and we're waiting the Late Night Fogies last two picks.
Makes a lot of sense here for Mad Nutties to save that presumably Muradin pick for very last. They might be holding on to what tank they want to choose in case they want to choose something maybe a little out of the box, maybe a Chen, maybe Leoric, something a little strange. But Muradin presumably the last pick. But either way, it wouldn't seem like Late Night Fogies would choose Muradin or any other tank with a pure tank like Johanna. So they save that for last. They pick up Zagara. Very good on this map for goaltending. laying that creep all over one or even two of those turn-ins to constantly keep eyes. And wow, my point is just blown out of the water there by the fact that Karazim and Butcher, we're going to see the Butcher coming in to Tomb of the Spider Queen on this one.
And it's interesting to see that they have now a Lunara and a Butcher on this team. Arguably a devastating auto attack if Butcher is built that way from the pair of them. The damage will be real once these two heroes get going, and the response is going to be, it's got to be a tank, I would assume, unless they're, and there it is, we are right, it is going to be that Muradin pick to slow down that Butcher or Lunara, try to get in the back line and disrupt that a little bit. I don't know, Jay, who do you think he's got the draft?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's hard voting for either team considering that somehow they have managed to pass up Sylvanas on Tomb of the Spider Queen. She's made it all the way through this draft, and I guess each team does have their siege hero that they were looking for, but either way, it's kind of a rough pick here. I really like the late night Fogeys with this kind of unorthodox draft. Karazim, Butcher have good engage potential, which means it's going to take a little bit of focus off of Lunara, which is her biggest problem. When she gets focused, she's very squishy. She doesn't have a whole lot of escape. She can end up with a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, a good, well-rounded draft coming out for Mad Nutties. Muradin, one of the best pure tanks in the game. They saved him for last. They got one that was totally reasonable. So them waiting a little bit later to get that frontline tank, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much because they ended up getting Muradin, which is a good pairing with Sonya to be able to help slow down those heroes, get those stuns out, body blocks, somebody to jump in with Sonya. Rhaegar, a lot of pure healing out. Zagara is great on this map with the lane presence, the lane clear. Falstad with the global presence, not usually a huge factor, but he's able to use Gust to really interrupt a lot of those turn-ins. The hammer's able to interrupt a lot of the turn-ins. So they have a lot of good turn-in denial between Zagara and Falstad. We'll have to see. I really, really like Mad Nutty's draft here. But if the late-night Fogeys are able to really focus on what they're good at, catching people out, slowing them down with Lunara, shackling them with Zol, getting in there with the Butcher, and getting some good ambushes and kills out, this could turn into an ugly game for Mad Nutties if they're able to catch out Zagara, Falstad, or Rhaegar.
Right, and I'm going to have to go with the late night Fogeys because I really, really like playing the Zool. He's one of my favorites along with the Butcher. Butcher is pretty old school from me when he first came out. That turned into my boy, so I'm going to go with late night Fogeys on that. And I think Butcher and, like you alluded to, of Sylvanas are, diamonds in the roughs, and when it comes to competitive or semi-competitive play, they're both extremely strong. And also realize when Butcher does his charge, he's unstoppable. You can't stop him from that, and he can stop himself. So I think if played right, if played at a ganking kind of feel to him, he can be very, very devastating, especially on that Zagara and possibly Falstad. As we're getting ready for this Division 3 matchup between Late Night Fogeys and the Mad Nutters, both teams sitting at, again, 3-4, 3 wins and 4 losses. Again, I'm really thinking that these teams are going to be very aggressive because they're going to really want to try to get themselves back to that 500 even ranking, and we'll see how this will shake out here. The brand new map, Jay. We're no longer doing the Terror map anymore. We're now doing Spider Queen, which is probably one of our favorite maps. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I love Tomb of the Spider Queen. It's a very small map. It's very steamrolly. It can tend to really steamroll out of control if a team gets an early advantage, but it's not going to be the forever battle that we usually see on Garden of Terror that we've been casting a lot lately. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the teams here. The blue team, we're going to see Late Night Fogeys with Velvet playing Lunara, Mango playing the Butcher, Kendo playing Johanna, Poe playing Karazim, and Zad Kyle playing Zol.
I'm going to butcher the heck out of these names, but Joraus is on Muradin, Dumak is on Sonya, and Magnapina is on Zagara. Legend, I get that one, is Rhaegar, and Chimeric is on Falstad. And looking at the talents right now, let's see if anything kind of stands out. It looks like Butcher is going to take that heal first talents that back in the day people really hated on people that played Butcher taking that heal, electing not to get that hamstring turret. But now we're seeing the resurgence of that heal talent.
Meanwhile, up in the top lane here, Late Night Fogey is looking to get a little bit of pressure on this. Both teams rotating pretty heavily as the Mad Nutties will come up here to try and defend this. They will get one of the turrets down before they get pushed off this, but eventually they will push all 5 members of Mad Fogeys out of here, and they're going to start rotating back out to the lanes. Meanwhile, in the bottom, Zagara is getting some serious siege work done, as she's been left completely alone here. She's actually going to answer that entire push up top by getting one of these cannon towers while still being able to soak the lane.
She might be a little bit in trouble here with the Butcher and Zool on her. If they can hamstring come out one more time, nope, not soon enough. They almost were able to gank Zagara right there in the bottom lane. But I like the aggressiveness by both teams. They're trying to get out early cannon kills. And they did a real nice job as both teams are now starting to pick up those gems.
Yeah, Zagara really abusing that creep and that level 1 talent to be able to get away there. But meanwhile, in the mid, we got a 5v4 fight going on as Zol is going to catch out Sonya, root her, and actually they're going to end up picking up the kill there before Rhaegar is able to help her get out.
Right, and when I initially saw that, I didn't think it was a good idea for him to charge in on Sonya because of her heal and escape possibilities, but it was really nice how they're able to clean her up as she was trying to get away.
And it looks like right now the Mad Fogeys are going for more of a 4-man rotation. They're not doing it too tight, but overall just focusing on the top and mid lanes, maybe trying to let Zagara get out a little bit, but she is laying the creep down. She's getting a lot of creep and a lot of vision down in the bottom section here, but not a whole lot creeping up into the actual place where you really would love to see is the turn-in location. But she's going to be caught out again, and this time with 3 members, with Lunara helping out, they're going to easily take her out.
Absolutely, and as we're seeing the team starting to rotate now, at the point of before that engagement, Fogeys were losing a little bit of that soak with that kind of rotation, but with that kill, they were able to now get the lead, and it might be able to push 5 here in a few seconds.
And so far, a little bit of a gem advantage going out for Late Night Fogeys as they are going up and down these lanes. They're rotating pretty heavily. They're getting a lot of push out, particularly in the top and the mid, but they are making sure to constantly pick up these gems. No turn-ins thus far. Neither team has even attempted to go for a turn-in yet.
And that is understandable. A lot of these teams will not turn in until they actually have enough, and they can try to turn in all of it at once. But we are seeing Poe trying to turn in his 11 as we're going, but he is going to be denied that as Nutties are really trying to keep an eye on those turn-ins.
Yeah, Johanna able to sneak up 10 in there before Poe made his attempt, but now Poe will actually get 10 in, and so far that's 21 turned in for the side of Late Night Fogeys. They almost have enough to actually be able to secure here, and Butcher is going to turn his in as the distracting fight going on here in the top, but they will end up walking away with this 31 gems in so far for the Late Night Fogeys.
And again, Zagara was left alone, and she was almost able to take out that entire cannon. And you know what? I believe she might be able to do it here, unless they get back and try to get this creep down. No, Fogeys going to come back and be able to save that tower at least for a couple more seconds.
But either way, quite a lot of damage, and all the ammo is gone. That front wall is in a lot of trouble, but Zagara continues to walk in there with the creep and all the vision, feeling pretty safe, feeling pretty secure about where she is, and always able to be able to run away on that creep with that level 1 talent. Meanwhile, a big fight raging out here. The Butcher gets caught a little bit in the middle of this team, body blocked out, and he is going to end up losing his life. Sonya's going to get very low. Lunara on the chase. She's getting a little bit deep in here, but she is poking out Rhaegar and ends up pushing the Mad Nutties away from here after Butcher goes down.
And it looks like the Nutties, even though they did lose Butcher there, were able to secure a spider rotation, which is good to see. But I question why Butcher would be going after Sonya like that. He was already down in the start of that engagement and didn't back off, thinking that he was going to be able to out-sustain her. And at this early stage, it's just not happening yet.
Particularly with Karazim as their solo healer. He's more of a heal over time kind of healer. He doesn't, unless he's right in the middle of an engagement, and they obviously don't have Palm yet. So it's going to be kind of hard for him to be able to sustain through a lot of the bursts that we're going to see from, particularly from Sonya and Falstad. So we'll have to see. Actually, it looks like Falstad might be going more of the sustained build, but either way, a lot of damage coming out there on Butcher.
Oh, absolutely. And let me take a look. Does he take? No, he did not take the. No, I'm sorry, he did. Butcher taking the hamstring, failing X to increase the hamstring, and then maximizing his meat, which is pretty much your standard build nowadays. It will be interesting to see what alt talent he'll take, either Lamb or Furnace. I'm more personally a fan of Lamb. And once again, we've seen Butcher charging in on that Sonya.
And a big fight going on here after these this first set of web weavers have been cleared out pretty efficiently. Not a whole lot. Not getting a whole lot out of that. The level advantage is still pretty much the same, and that's what we see a lot from these early web weavers. A lot of times, a lot of teams will try to get that turn in around 10 so they can use it to try and get a little boost up to 10. But so far, the race to 10 is on, and even though the late night Fogeys gave up that first web weaver phase, they're not really losing anything in that race.
No, they're not. And what Fogeys need to start working on is cleaning up some of that creep down in the bottom lane. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to get Cigar very well. And if they ever have a team fight down there, they're just going to be completely seen by the other team until it's too late.
And we see yet another rotation down here from Lunara, but Zagara sees that coming. She's actually, and realizes, hey, Lunara's all by herself. I don't have to take this.
Right, and with all that creep on the ground, she doesn't have to babysit that particular turn-in. She can go off and do whatever she needs, and as soon as she sees somebody coming down into her creep, she can back off and try to answer to that. And here we go with her response to Lunara.
Meanwhile, strong rotations coming out still from late night Fogeys as they're trying to secure this turn-in. They realize the top turn-in is probably the only viable one they have to really turn in, but still they're going to be collapsed on here by Mad Nutties, but they're going to end up taking out Muradin as he tried to jump in there to deny that turn-in. The question is whether or not Mad Nutties are going to want to continue trying to stave off this turn-in, but the late night Fogeys are going to get those gems in and get their set of web weavers pushing right around 10. This is going to be really close because both of these teams are going to hit 10 pretty much at the same time.
Yes, they did. And I'm taking quickly looking at the Storm Talents as if there's any surprising. We see Thornwood Vine going for Lunara, Furnace for Butcher. We see Falling Sword on Joanna. We don't see that very often. Divine Palm, no surprise there. Nova, no surprise there. On the other side, Muradin's taking Avatar. Again, no surprise. Wrath, Berserker. I'm more of a fan of Elite. Call me crazy. On Sonya, Muradin's got him. Thank you. As on Ma. And Ancestral Healing, no surprise there for Rhaegar. And Mighty Gust, again, no surprise there for Falstad.
Yeah, pretty standard heroics coming out here as the Gust coming out to try and forestall the push of this fort a little bit. But it looks like they're going to pretty easily take down the fort with the help of the Web Weaver up here on the top lane.
And even though the Fogeys are getting this nice push on the top lane, Zagara is still electing to stay bottom lane to push this bottom keep our tower down, and it's just not putting out the damage yet. And she's going to have to look out because Fogeys are now starting to do the rotation down to address her. Yeah,
they're definitely going to rotate down here to clean up. This could be a good opportunity for them to try and look for some of these creep tumors and try to clear out some of this creep in general.
What I really would like them to see them do is, as they're turning in here, to go back into top lane and keep pushing that top lane down. They have barely touched that wall. That outer wall, and as they're turning in, they can keep the pressure on, and arguably could have had that wall completely down before the spiders come up, but they elected to kind of sort of play defensively and answer to the rotation here with the Maw coming out on Joanna.
The Maw is only going to hit Johanna, but it's going to allow Mad Nutties to really take a pretty aggressive approach to this team fight as they're able to take Johanna out really quickly, and the Mad Fogeys are just going to have to back out of here without any kind of front line to really protect them.
And I think we're actually calling them the wrong name. They're the late night Fogeys. If we're mixing up the two teams, they're not Mad Fogeys. They're late night Fogeys and Mad Nutties.
It's a late night. It's been a very long day. I apologize.
It is.
But definitely the Mad Nutties securing the Web Weavers here, getting a lot of pressure down on bottom. Zagara's work paying off as the Web Weaver alone will take that down.
We're finally seeing the tower come down in the bottom lane that Zagara has been working on the entire match. which is surprising. You think you'd be a little bit more aggressive to nail that down, but it just didn't happen right there. And was able to also get the tower that accompanied the cannon next to the tower, and we're seeing a push into bot lane right now by Nutties.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this strategy pays off. You know, in a lot of maps, it doesn't matter a whole ton which lane you go after, but here on Tomb of the Spider Queen, a lot of people end up really prioritizing the top lane because of the fact that that is the lane that boss pushes into. So later on in the game, if you've cleared the top lane and you're able to capture a boss, it really gives you an opportunity to go after an end game kind of push with that boss.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to see, and maybe you can tell me, and as we're seeing a massive fight and damage dump onto Sonya, and it looks like Sonya is going to be saved by the hair of her chinny chin chin there with that ancestral healing. And the furnace does come out, gets Muradin really low, but it still is able to escape, and we do see that front wall mid lane coming down for the Fogeys.
A huge Defiant Bomb coming out to save Butcher, but the unfortunately, Karazim and Johanna were caught up in that Maw, and they're going to end up getting way out of position here. Lunara ends up getting caught out as well, and the late night Fogeys are on the run here as Mad Nutties are pushing them into this top lane. They're going to end up getting Lunara, and they're going to end up getting Zol as well.
Absolutely, here was a great engagement by the Nutties there to push that issue there, and Falstad come flying in, trying to push the Fogeys back into her team, but inadvertently pushed them into that outer lane to the right side of the top turn-in, but was still able, they're still able to go up there and catch a few of them, and yes, they sustained 2 deaths here. So now they're able to clean up these spiders without much of a response.
Yeah, a lot of the advantage that can be gained off of the spiders is not so much whether or not you capture them and spawn them, but when, and whether or not you have your team available. So one of the worst times to capture one of these spiders is as you're losing a team fight, because it just simply means you can't help them capitalize as much, you can't help them get as much siege damage out, and ultimately the top 2 web weavers are going to go down, and all they're going to be able to do is help their web weaver push into this bottom lane. It looks like they are going to get the fort out, but we're going to eventually see the answer from the Mad Nutties coming down here to clear this up.
And we are seeing a bit of a slow rotation with that Sonya and Falstad, giving the Fogeys enough time to back out of there, where they really could have taken advantage of that and really cut them off if they would have rotated it just a little bit quicker down. But it is still early. We really haven't hit the late game yet, so we'll see if the aggressiveness of both teams actually picks up as this match gets longer.
Yep, and right now exactly 60 gems on the side of Mad Nutties. They're going to try and secure this turn-in and bottom, but the late night Fogeys do sniff this out. They are going to interrupt a little bit of that with Thornwood Vines from Lunara, and the big team fight comes in. Zol's going to walk right into the middle of this.
Oh, my.
Huge Furnace, huge Poison Nova. Jump into the back line with that Falling Sword from Johanna, and they are going to get a lot of work done here on the Mad Nutties. Muradin looks like he's going to end up making it out, and Zagara is going to retreat through the bottom lane. They do get Butcher, but overall that's going to be a 1-for-3 exchange.
Not only that, but they also denied the Nutties this turn and stole the majority of their gems, and so that they cannot get that turn in, and Fogeys are trying. I'm sorry, it was the other way around. Nutties denied them that, but they were the Fogeys trying to chase down that Muradin with no avail, though.
Yeah, absolutely, a great turn-in denial there, and now all of a sudden the Nutties are having to collect a few more gems here before they're even looking at a turn-in. Meanwhile, the race to 16, slightly won by the Mad Nutties, but ultimately both teams will pick up 16 and those big 16 talents before another fight breaks out.
And here we go with the bottom turn, and we are going to have a fight kind of break out here. Butcher coming in, but then electing to leave, and Joe is trying to make some sort of initiative, but it is too late. The Nutties do get the turn in here, but let's see if they pay for it.
Yeah, Sonya gets caught out just a little bit, but she'll actually elect to go back in, trying to put a little damage out. And meanwhile, the Mad Nutties, they are getting their web weavers to spawn here. We'll have to see if they can take a little bit of an advantage off this. The Gus is going to come out, and that is going to completely isolate Johanna. She's going to have to Falling Sword just to get out of there.
My goodness, and that gust is devastating. When you got a team fight that's working in your favor, and you're pushing them, and you got guys really low, Falsa just comes in here and just gusts them away. And not only that, but also with the slow that could potentially beyond that as well. It's just completely just a team fight ruiner right there.
Yeah, the Maw is going to come out. It's going to get 2 members of the Late Night Fogeys, and then the level 16 Totem is going to come out from Rhaegar to slow him up and get this engagement going. But the Butcher's going to come in with the Furnace. They're going to get Sonya very low. Falstad is going to fall, and all of a sudden the Mad Nutties are on the run. Here come the Fogeys.
Yeah, here they come, and see if they can push this advantage. They're electing to stay in mid lane there and clean up that creep, or excuse me, that lane. However, if they all would have pushed together, would they have been able to get Rhaegar or Zagara there? I'm not sure, but they're playing a little bit defensively. They're going to clean up their lanes, bottom lane, get healed up, and then reset themselves to go back out to get some more of those gems.
Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job of taking out the Mad Nutty, enough of the Mad Nutties there that they really couldn't take a big advantage from having those Web Weavers. They weren't able to push the mid down. They were able to defend the fort. And then as soon as they had that advantage, rather than pushing in to where they didn't really have a whole lot of aid from that mid fort, they went ahead and cleaned up the lanes, which I think is a really good call. Really heads up shot calling out of the Mad Nutties, and now, or the Late Night Fogeys.
For whatever reason, we're having trouble with these names tonight. It's probably because it's so late.
It is. It's very late over here. Even on the West Coast, it's starting to get a little bit late. But
yeah,
the pull in from Johanna, the Late Night Fogeys are going to end up capturing these Web Weavers, and they're going to be trying to push into this mid, and we're going to see yet another big engagement on the mid. However, these Web Weavers are much further back in the top and mid. So we'll have to see how long they can drag this fight out as the big Poison Nova comes out. It's going to hit 3 members of the Mad Nutties. And the big Ancestral coming out there to save Sonya right at the last moment. They're going to end up catching Johanna as she comes in a little bit too far with that falling sword.
And we see the Butcher trying to charge there with the Furnace under the tower, but then getting gusted out of it there. He's lucky they did not die from that engagement, but luckily they only lose Joe. And they're still up, and they're going to still try to push this bottom lane. And it looks like in top lane, Murd and Rhaegar are going to respond to that particular spider. And now we see the Fogeys going back and resetting and cleaning up some of these lanes, and probably dealing with some of this creep that they have on the ground.
Butcher looked like he might be trying to set up a little bit of a gank attempt here, and Falstad is going to walk straight into the Butcher, face checking that vent is going to end up costing him his life. Zola is going to catch Zagara a little bit out. Sonya going way down. She's going to be slowed down by Lunara's poisons, but that mystical spear is going to get her out of there safely.
I really like the change of tactic that Butcher's doing there. Instead of trying to go after Sonya, he is now elected to go after Falstad, even though he can fly away with his E-talent. That is a much better target for him to go after due to the fact that how much squishier Falstad is.
It makes a lot of sense, and if they can kill Falstad before that gust becomes a big factor, they can start to really win these team fights more decisively. But we'll have to see if Falstad is willing to put himself out of position there, because that wasn't really an engagement. It was really just more of an ambushed gank attempt, right. And that is where the Butcher really thrives. He's a great ambusher. He comes out of nowhere, and he's able to lay a lot of damage down quickly along with that slow. And Falstad had actually almost made it out, but ended up dying just before he could make it to safety there.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and it looks like we have Fogeys trying to turn in. They're the closest to the turn-in with about 14 or so left to go before they have enough for a turn-in.
Yep, they'll need to collect a wave or two more here before they're ready to turn in. But both these teams, the race to 20, almost dead even here, as these Storm Talents are going to be on the way, and we're going to see these team fights start to really kick it up a notch as soon as both of these teams hit 20.
Absolutely. And with this turn-in possibly coming in here from the Fogeys, you know that the Nutty is going to be following them around to make sure they can deny the Fogeys of this turn-in. Because this arguably could be a really devastating turn-in if played right.
Yeah,
And we're
right now
seeing
the Mad Nutties they do have enough for this turn in, but good goaltending going on here. But a Devouring Maw coming out is going to hit 2 members of the Late Night Fogeys, but they just don't have quite enough follow up there to be able to do anything with it. Level 20 is going to be achieved just barely quicker by the Mad Nutties, but not enough to really make any kind of difference. All these Storm Talents being picked up, and we'll have to see if they want to do any kind of engagement here. Both teams kind of posturing, kind of trying to see if they can catch anybody out. But just in general, the Late Night Fogeys going back up and down these lanes and back and forth between these 2 turn-ins, trying to make sure that they cannot secure the turn-in that they have enough gems for here.
And I really like the Butcher Storm talent that he took there with that Bolt of Storm teleport that he's going to have. Plus, on top of that with the charge. Will be really interesting to see how that will play. And Murden taking that rewind for his avatar look. And again, with Bolt of Storm with Zagara as well. And Storm Shield coming out for Rhaegar. And then, of course, Epic Mount for Falstead, which is no surprise there. Zool electing to take the Spear instead of the increase for the Nova. That extra damage in a line that he'll have. And then Peaceful Response for the Divine Palm on Kerosene. And then Forest Wrath coming out for Lunard to upgrade her alt talent.
And Zagara is going to end up sneaking that turn in into bottom, and now the Mad Nutties are going to have their Web Weavers pushing out. It's going to go furthest about 50% of the way into the mid lane, into the bottom lane, I should say. It's pretty much 50-50 throughout all the lanes, a little bit less so for the Mad Nutties here, but it looks like they're going to be posturing up to maybe try and work on this mid keep again, but Sonya is going to go up to try and clear top and aid that Web Weaver a little bit, so she's going to be a little late on the rotation back down here to help her team try and take this mid fort.
And we're seeing the pressure being applied by the Nutties into the mid lane tower, first tower here, and the Spider still relatively good health as it enters range of the tower, but the Nutties are electing to back off and try their hand at pushing the top lane and see if they can get the inner wall out of this exchange.
Absolutely, and I'm still a big proponent in saying that the top lane is definitely the most important. If there's a decisive team fight that goes on for the rest of this match, it could turn into a very quick boss, which could steamroll into a win if they've cleared a decent amount of this. Not only that, but having this fight going on in the top means in the bottom lane, this Web Weaver is going to be able to get a little bit more work done because it's so far away. They aren't going to be able to answer to it as quickly, even if they do take the Mad Nutties off of this top keep.
And I really think that they should keep applying this pressure here to make Fogeys determine what they're doing, and they are going to keep coming in to apply this pressure to forcing the Fogeys to determine where they're going to go. They're going to give up the bottom keep, or they're going to give up the top keep. And it looks like they've elected to give up the top keep, and now we got Catapults coming over on the top lane.
And they're actually going to end up losing both keeps. They didn't quite respond quick enough to get down to that bottom lane, which is going to be kind of a devastating error here. You want to make sure you try to defend at least one, but because the rotation was just a little bit too slow, they weren't able to defend either of those keeps. A very heads-up play by the Mad Nutties, giving the Late Night Fogeys a choose-how-you-lose kind of situation, and unfortunately, they kind of ended up choosing both losing scenarios.
Right, and it just goes to show you how aggressiveness, when applied appropriately, can really impact your gameplay and your overall effectiveness on a map during a match, just as like we saw with both those keeps coming down.
A nice bolt of the storm there by Zagara to get her out of harm's way, and this 5v5 team fight is going to be engaged down here in the bottom. Poison Nova coming out, not doing a whole lot of damage, but is going to get Kerosene fairly low.
And again, we're seeing Zool trying to single out Murden, who I don't know if you want to waste your prison on a Murden like that. I would imagine you'd want to take him and try to prison either the two range, Falstead and Zagara, or Rhaegar. But again, we see that with Murden.
Again, Johanna being poked to very, very low health. She's going to have to Falling Sword away just to get out. And both teams are going to walk away without losing any members here. But a decisive... at very least a decisive engagement there by Mad Nutties, able to push out their opponents away from those turn-ins and deny them the turn-in that they were trying to capture there on bottom.
Right, and now we see Nutties forcing down the tower in mid lane, and now we're going to be approaching that wall. inner wall, and they are looking like to reset, probably looking for some sort of a turn in. They're holding over 61 gems and already have 26 of those already turned in, and they're going to get another turn in out of here. And also at the bottom camp, there with Sonya smartly trying to take a camp. Oh, she's letting it reset. She's letting it reset so she can come back and answer what the Fogeys are doing with them pressing that top turn in.
Yeah, they're trying to force this top turn in, but the creep is everywhere. There is vision everywhere for Zagara and the Mad Nutties here. They always know exactly where they're trying to go to the turn in, and quite frankly, unless the late night Fogeys are able to win a decisive team fight here, I'm not sure they're really going to be able to secure another turn in. But as I say that, they are pushing the Mad Nutties back, getting a lot of damage out. We're going to see the Furnace and the big bolt in to deal a lot of damage to them. Johanna getting very low, and there it is. The Gust is going to gust them away, get them out, but Muradin is still going to take a ton of damage. It looks like he is going to end up going down here as Karazim jumps in and finishes him off.
And there it is there, and now we're going to see this the Fogeys trying to get this next turn in with their massive amount of coins. I'm just noting on my screen that the colors are flipped for the turn-in. So the turn-in colors are opposite. So for me, the Fogeys are red for the turn-in, and Nutties are blue.
I see.
I don't get it.
This stupid country. But yeah, we've seen that. We've seen a little bit of UI problems here, but for sure.
And we're seeing Fogeys taking down this boss. And it's interesting to note that boss doesn't play a huge role in this map. A lot of teams electing to keep going with getting their spiders, and the boss is sometimes neglected for an entire match. But we do see the Fogeys pick up this boss. It's now going to be pressuring that top lane all the way to that inner wall.
Well, I mean, it's only 27 minutes into the match, and they are going to make a very heads-up smart play here. They're going to capture the boss, but they're also going to capture the web weaver. So they're going to have spiders pushing, and are going to give the Mad Nutties a boss to have to respond to here.
This is potentially very devastating for the Nutties trying to defend all this with 5v3 up here at the top lane. Zagara trying to backdoor the top lane on the Fogey side to see if they can get the spider down and then push it into the core with her two catapults behind her.
But meanwhile, all 5 of the late night Fogeys are in here pushing into the core, pushing with this boss. They're going to get the keep down. But it looks like that's all they're going to do. They're going to decide to send Zol back to answer to Zagara's push, but the rest of the team is actually going to continue to push with the boss. It looks like they're going to get Rhaegar down here, caught a little bit out, and they're going after Muradin next. Muradin's going to get targeted down, and just so much damage coming. Oh, and a 4-man Maw. We'll have to see if they can follow this up. A lot of damage coming out to Karazim. A very premature palm coming out onto Johanna that is not going to help her at all. And Johanna's going to end up proccing that Indestructible, that level 20 talent, but she is still on the run. As soon as that Indestructible is down, she's going to be an easy target, and a lot of gems are going to be left on the floor there. Meanwhile, in the mid, we also have the keep going down to the Web Weaver.
And the Web Weaver is still up with about a fourth of health of it. Going to get some very devastating hits onto this core, taking down some of that shield before it is taken down by Zagara.
Very back and forth match going on so far. Falstad is going to end up going down. I believe that might have been in the bottom lane there. He had a very aggressive fly-in to try and help aid the catapults that were pushing in the bottom. But Zol and Butcher with a great answer to it to knock him out and take him out of this fight for over a minute. The death timer is getting very high as we're approaching the half-an-hour mark in this match.
Absolutely, this is a bit of a longer match than usual, and taking these staggered deaths like this could be potentially pretty bad for Nutties if they keep doing this up. However, great stun on Butcher as he is stunned out of his furnace and does nothing for him. And now it's got a big cooldown, over 70 seconds cooldown here, and we got a big team fight in the top lane.
And the Butcher is going to end up going down. Lunara just doing, just trying to put out as much damage as she can, but she's going to have to limp away from this one. And just a ton of damage coming out from Zagara as well as Sonya here. Even without Falstad, this could be a lethal push into the top lane here, as now Butcher and Zol are both down here, and they're clearing this lane up, and the Web Weavers are pushing in. Mid lane, they've got a long way to go, but pushing in right behind this catapult and this minion wave in the top lane, and they also will have to respond to it in the bottom lane. That's also pushing in towards the core.
And if Fogeys take one more death here, that could be it for them. But so they have to play this very, very defensively and wait till the team is under the tower or under the core to initiate their attack. But we do see them all come out, and Lunara looks like she goes right on down.
And Lunara will fall. Falstad able to fly back into that match very quickly, and just too much pressure down on these for the late night Fogeys to be able to hold. And congrats to Mad Nutties for the GG. They are going to walk away the winners of this match here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
This match could have gone either way for each team. Each team, they played very evenly. I thought. And you take a look at the deaths, or I'm sorry, the kills on both sides, and it does show that Fogeys getting a little bit of a slight advantage there with 14-12, but very well balanced teams when it comes to skill level and how they manage this. It was a very entertaining match to see that, because honestly, it could have gone either way in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely back and forth, and both teams definitely never given up. They weren't afraid to team fight. They weren't afraid to try some out of the box thinking, some backdoors, some different strategies, boss attempts, and that boss attempt was almost enough to secure them the win with the Web Weaver. And actually, really heads-up move. We didn't really mention it during the match, but Zagara actually went up into that top lane. It kind of looked like she was trying to backdoor the core, but what she really did was stop that lane from pushing out in the top lane, so that the boss got absolutely no support from the Web Weavers or the minion waves, so they were able to take that boss out. A lot of that led to the momentum and keeping that top lane really, really well pushed out, which resulted in a lot of that pressure coming at the end of the game there.
I'll be honest. I thought that Spiders with the boss pushing was going to secure the win for the Fogeys there. I thought it was going to be inevitable there, but you're right. The way that Zagara was able to counter push to the point where they had to respond to her leaving the boss all by itself was really, really good on her part. And we take a look here at the numbers. Lunara coming out with the most hero damage at 130,000 of the entire match. Zagara for the Nutties actually having top siege and hero damage for her team with over 253,000 siege damage to 111,000 hero damage, and Zul coming out with a massive amount of siege damage with over 300,000 siege damage in this match.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. I'm going to try and do this a little more often. I'm going to give a quick snapshot over to the talent screen so you guys can see what these guys decided to go with throughout the match. And thank you very much for joining us today. Really great day of casting. I want to thank all the teams that came out today, particularly big shout out to these last two teams. Congratulations to the Mad Nutties and the Late Night Fogeys for coming out, putting a great show on for us. And thank you very much, Plague, for joining me tonight, staying up late, burning the midnight oils to bring us some of this awesome Heroes of the Storm Chair League action. Really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Absolutely. It's phenomenal to sit down here and be able to cast and watch good teams play each other in this game that we all love to play.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. And we will be casting a lot more often on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so you can keep a lookout for that. Feel free to subscribe if you like what you're seeing. And we'll see you guys in the Nexus soon once again.
Later.